Well, it took the better part of a decade, but the U.S. did get their man. And it may be a crude form of justice, but I got to admit, it feels kind of good. It does feel kind of good. And it's a symbolic phenomenon. It's a symbolic event, but it is cutting off the head of a snake. It really is, and it does mean something rather profound to those of us that have been living under the shadow of 9/11. And it's interesting. I would ask each of you to just examine the story I'm about to tell you and see if this has meaning to you. I heard about it last night from my wife, and she sort of texted me. I said, "Oh, wow, that's really great." And then I got a parking ticket, and I thought my son parking next to me got a parking ticket too, so I texted him, "Hey, you're going to get a ticket. It's my fault. Give it to me." And oh, by the way, did you hear that they got bin Laden? And my kids, I have triplets. They're 18 years old, and my two sons reacted with this huge, this incredible reaction, like, "Oh my God, this is unbelievable." And I thought, wow, you make sure you talk to your kids at home. They have been living with this most of their life. My kids were 8 years old when this happened, and bin Laden has been a shadow hanging over their lives, their entire conscious existence. And to have that end is a really big deal for them. It's symbolic, yes, but it's a big deal. We are not the same. We didn't ask for this scar to be brought upon us. We didn't ask for this. It came to us. And I think what we're seeing here finally is that we can really finish it. It's not over. Don't gloat. Don't get cocky. But I think this is at least a sign that we can finish this if we put our mind to it. It feels very different than when I was an adolescent. I remember I was in college looking at the Boston Globe, a picture of some helicopters that crashed in the Iranian desert after a failed attempt to get the hostages back, and that felt awful as a young adult, to be that incompetent. At least we are competent, we say what we're going to do, and we follow through on it, and we do it. Joining us are Kaj Larson, CNN correspondent who has covered the war in Afghanistan. We also have Charles G. Wolfe. His wife, Catherine, died at the World Trade Center in the attacks on September 11th. Charlie, tell us about your wife and what happened to her on that day.
Well, she was in the World Trade Center. She was on the 97th floor of Tower 1, and the plane flew right over our apartment 5 seconds before it plowed directly into her office, and she was disintegrated, vaporized in less than half a second.
She may have actually been one of the lucky ones in that building. The people that my heart goes out for are the ones that were above where the planes hit. Yes. How do you react to Osama bin Laden's death?
Last night, a friend of mine from Atlanta, interestingly enough, called me and said, "Hey, you know the guy that killed your wife? They got him." And I said, "Wow, that's wonderful news." And then I quickly got another call from one of the networks, and they asked me to come up to talk. And I got in the first person I actually got to talk to about with it was the taxi driver, and he was like, "What?" He hadn't heard about it. And it turns out that his brother was in the building, or his brother-in-law was in the building and gotten out with a lot of blood on him and so forth, that he was all excited. And then I called my dad and told him, and it slowly, and it just, for 2 hours, my body just tingled. I was really, really pleased that this happened.
Good. I'm Charlie. If it makes just one person who lost someone that happy, this was a good thing. I'm sorry to say it, to be so brutal about it, but that's the fact. And I don't know what to say to people that lost someone in that building. I'm angry and I'm sad, and God bless you. I'm glad there's some closure today for you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Now, I've got with me Kaj Larson. Now, a couple things I want to do with you. You're all over the world, so you've got to have a sense of how the world's reacting to this. I'm going to get a little bit of that. And then I want to find out what went down in that compound last night. I saw a Twitter feed coming from the neighbor that told me almost more than anything else. So first, the reaction around the world. What do you think the world's reaction is?
I mean, I think the global reaction, as you can imagine, is mixed and is varied. I think the general sentiment, especially among our allies, people who've been involved in the prosecution of the global war on terror, is that this is, as you said at the top, a very significant moment.
Symbolic.
Absolutely, absolutely. And even if not strategically and tactically important, absolutely, Osama bin Laden will not be able to conduct, oversee, or inspire operations in the same way.
And if somebody else feels issues, we will get him. That's right. What this is saying. All right, so tell me about the operation. It was last night. They dropped in out of helicopters. They blasted. This compound had 20-foot walls, no doors or windows, or something akin to that. Guys dropped out of the sky. Tell me more. I'm trying to get my head around it.
So you have to understand that the Navy SEAL teams who persecuted this action are the very best in the world at what we call direct action missions, which then involve a CQC, or a close quarters combat component. And what this mission did is it essentially followed this mantra of special operations, which is on a mission, you use speed, surprise, and violence of action. Speed. The helicopters came in, the time on target was less than 40 minutes. Unbelievable. Surprise. They came in stealthily, unknown, even in an era where a next-door neighbor could be twittering the helicopters coming in.
Yeah.
And then violence of action, you saw the end result, what we call tactical resolution.
They go in through one side. They obviously can't go multiple sides. They'll shoot at each other.
Right.
They just blow down a wall and just go in.
Right, absolutely. And obviously we don't want to get into the specifics of tactics, but because of what you were indicating, the potential for blue-on-blue fire, these are coordinated, well-rehearsed, almost like a dance kind of operations where they attack from one direction and they blow through the building after a hard entry in order to get inside, despite the fortifications you described earlier.
And because it was so well-orchestrated dance, will we ever know who the actual soldier was that fired the bullet?
It's unlikely, especially if that operator wants to continue to engage in special operations. For the time being, he certainly will remain anonymous. You know, in the special operations community, we have a mantra. It's called the quiet professional. They don't essentially talk a lot about what they do. They infiltrate, they get into the target site, they execute their mission, and they go home and only talk about it in the platoon hut, vice to the rest of the world.
They probably feel pretty good about it, those 20 guys.
I think this is a great day for the SEAL community, and I think it's a great day for the nation as well.
Well, Kosh, thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it. I'd like to hear more about this. Maybe we'll get you up on the internet, or a little piece afterwards. We can put it up on the internet, because it's so many details about that are just, everyone I know wants to know more about that. And Charlie, thank you for joining us. So, I mean, our heart goes out to you, and I hope this gives you some form of closure. And it sounds like you were feeling pretty good after finding out about it. So, God bless you.
I don't know that closure is a good thing, because in order to get closure, you'd have to forget about the whole thing. I mean, I drew a line in the sand and said they may have gotten my wife, but they're not getting the rest of my life. And I did that about a few days after 9/11. But what this does is I'm happy that it happened, because nothing's going to bring her back. But I'm happy this happened. It feels like justice has been done. I'm glad that we did it, and not one of the other countries that's been helping us, but we're the ones that got them. That feels really good, because they sucker punched us, and now we got them. But I couldn't help but think that as we dumped his body into the depths of the ocean, so did God dump his soul into the depths of hell.
Well said, Charlie. Thank you.